Okay, I thought I'd just give a quick overview of Wild Game Tracker. For the most part, this app is fairly intuitive when you get into it, but um, it is also made to be really quick and easy access to things. So sometimes when you get into it at first, because of the layout, it takes a little time to kind of figure out, well, how does this app actually work? So the first time you load up, it's likely going to be set to nav off setting, which you can see there, which means that there's no navigation. What that means is that you can kind of move around the app and it's not going to come back to track your location. It's always going to zoom in with the last kind of saved map type, as well as the last saved zoom level, and also the last saved navigation style. There's actually 4 navigation styles, but when you first get into the app, let's go over the kind of core functionality. So Wild Game Tracker obviously is set up so that it's for tracking animals. And so if you read at the very top of the app, it says long press or use the voice button to add markers. So the most basic way that you're going to add animal markers is just to hold down on their screen, and then it's going to have a pop-up. So wherever you want to add an animal, you can see that I'm just at my house right now. Let's say that I was in this park, and if we were in the woods and there was a deer over here, what I would do is just long press, and then I could select the type of animal. You can see as you scroll with the left side that it rotates. So if I was fishing, it's going to give me, this side's going to be all fish. If I was hunting, obviously, big game, it's going to give me an option of kind of all the big game animals that are kind of popular in North America. So if I wanted to add whitetail, I could do that. I can add a description here to that. If it was a buck, I could just put that. If I was shed hunting or whatever, I could just put shed or an animal sign. I could do that as well. If I wanted to take a picture, it also has an option to take a picture. Obviously, I'm inside my house giving this kind of tutorial, so I can do a picture maybe of just one of my daughter's pieces of artwork. That's me. Flip it around. We'll pretend I was in the woods and this was a whitetail. Anyway, so I could add that picture to it. You can also add from your gallery, so you could add game cam pics and other things as well. So lots of different options there of how you want to add pictures. And then I just hit submit, and you can see now I have an animal marker right there. When I click on it, it not only gives the date and the name and the description, but if you add a picture to it, it's going to do a little pop-up like that. If you don't add a picture, it's just going to look the way it is right now. Some things that are different if you're talking about areas. So if, for example, I wanted to add, let's go to a different park. Let's just scroll out. Let's say that I was at a piece of property and I just got permission to this place. This is actually a golf course, but we could pretend it's a piece of property that I just got permission to hunt on. Well, what I can do here is I could go and I can click on it, and if I scroll to the areas, it's going to give me a couple extra options there. Along with the description, we could just call this what it is. This is in Henderson Park. Okay, but if this was a property that I was hunting, then I could also add the contact name, contact phone number, and contact email, or just a couple of those. Okay, however I would want to contact whoever that property owner is, I could add those in. So if I wanted to add in, say, Bob, and I'll just make up a pretend phone number, 403-123-4567. I could add the phone number, and I could also add an email. In this case, I'll just put bob@lake.com, whatever. Then I could do a picture of Bob as well. We'll do a picture of me just because. I could add from my gallery. You can see there as well. Let's just pretend this was Bob, but this is me. And I can add that. And once I hit submit, notice that it says tap around the outer area of the property. And so what I can do now with the area marker is I can just tap, and then I can scroll around, and you can zoom in and out still. I could tap here, here, all around the property. And what this is going to do, as soon as I get so that I have a pretty good outline of that property, you can see it adds little X's as I go. Then I just click done at the bottom here, and it's going to mark that entire property. So now I have that property marked, as well as having all the contact info I need, a picture if I need, and all these things are optional. So I don't need to have a phone number, text message, or email in there, but they're options, right? And so if I don't put a picture in, it's just going to show the little pop-up of the green buttons. But I can call directly from here now. So if I want to actually call Bob, I could do this, and it's going to jump right to that phone number. So the beauty of that is then you don't have to store these random contacts. Maybe it's someone you did some research, looked up, and then you found out, oh, okay, I know who this guy is. And then next hunting season, you're like, I want to contact that guy again. Well, he might not be your best friend, and so you might not necessarily have him in your contacts or remember what his name is. Now, just by clicking on that marker, his information comes up and you can call the guy directly. So that makes saving property really easy. Just kind of going into some other features. So that's kind of the main functionality, adding markers. The other ways you can always add markers too is you can always just add markers by just using the voice command. So if I was driving down the road, lots of times I have my wild game tracker in kind of a mount in my car, and I'll be out driving through the countryside and I'll see a white-tailed deer or see a mule deer or whatever, and I want to mark that, or a pronghorn, whatever. Then I can just use the voice marker, and I have programmed into it that it's going to recognize most common names. For example, pronghorn, it's going to recognize antelope. It's going to recognize some different things. So if I wanted to, say, add a marker and I'm driving and I'm like, I want to be quick, I don't want to be fiddling with my phone, I can just hit the voice command and say, oh, I guess there's a problem because I'm using my mic right now to record on my phone, so it doesn't want to use Google search. But basically what you're going to do here is you're just going to say the animal name. It's going to be able to add that. Obviously right now, I think because I'm recording on my phone, it doesn't want to do that. Trust me, it works 100%, unless you're in low kind of cell coverage, and I'm not. It's just probably because I'm using the mic for this other app right now. But that works pretty well the rest of the time. I also have voice command actually on Android Wear watches as well. So you could actually, when I have this in my boat, I have it sitting at the front of my boat mounted as well. And I can actually hit the voice button on my watch, and it will actually add markers to my screen as I'm fishing, and never have to go to the front of the boat as well. So now I'm just going to move through the buttons at the bottom. So if you look at the bottom here, the first button on the left there, if you look at it, it's got like a not sign through it, but underneath there is little animal claws, and what that is it's a tracking mode. So two places that I use this feature, one of them is in the boat. So when I'm trolling, I like to track my line, and so when I catch fish, I'm marking fish the whole time, like I just showed you. Usually with the voice command, but oftentimes just by touching the screen as well. So if I was trolling through, we have navigation off now. I'll just go to, we're going to say I was on this lake here. If I had navigation on it, which should be showing, and if I turned on this feature right here, it would show a green line everywhere I went. And it's going to give you a pop-up that's going to run in the background. So the one place I use it is in the boat to track trolling lines, and then I can troll back through that same line. And also be marking fish along the way, but I can kind of repeat that trolling line very easy. But the other place is you can see that pop-up came. What that pop-up does is it makes this so that it's running in the background as well. Where that's handy is when you're in the bush. Usually before I go somewhere in the bush, I mark my truck with the app, so that's a feature as well. So I could mark my truck. It's one of the options under Outpost is your truck. Lots of different things you can see there. But I would mark my truck to start, and then I would turn on tracking over here in this bottom kind of left corner. And with tracking on, what that's going to allow me to do is it's going to make a track wherever I go. And so if I ever get lost in the bush, I can always just kind of follow my track back. And so it's a really kind of survival safety feature. I actually got lost a couple years ago, and I got home and I added that as well as the compass feature, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But it is running in the background. You could see if you went in here. It says route tracking enabled, don't close the app with the back button. So basically on Android apps, you don't want to hit the back button. You can hit the home button and go out of the app and then come back in the app, and it's still going to be tracking. You can take phone calls, do whatever, as long as you don't close it with Task Manager or the back button. It's going to continue to track you through the woods. So that's pretty handy. Like I said, I use it for in the woods for survival, make sure that I know where I'm going, but I also use it for tracking trolling lines when I'm on the water as my navigation device. So that's there. I'll just turn off tracking now. You've seen that feature. If I want to remove markers, like just for example, this Henderson Park, I didn't really want that marker in there. Just marking a city golf course is not necessarily what I want to do. So to remove markers, all as I do is I click on this X that's got the not on sign. Basically, it's not remove. So I turn on delete. It says click on markers or areas you wish to delete, and then I can just delete that, and then I can delete that area as well just by tapping on it, and then I can kind of turn off delete when I'm done. Okay, just moving across to the next button that we have here is a way that I can send waypoints. I can also send my current location, and there's several ways to do that: email, text. And so if I just click on the little send button here, it's going to give me a pop-up, and it's going to say, what do you want to do? Text my location, email my location, text a waypoint, email a waypoint, send a screenshot, all that stuff. You just click on any of those buttons and it's going to do that for you. So really handy feature to send your location to your buddies and send kind of a map picture to your buddies. All that stuff works really well. The other thing sometimes you know where you're going and you find the point and you're like, okay, I want to go to this hunting ground that I have and it's over here. But I don't remember the roads to get there. And so you're looking at it, you're scouting things out. We'll pretend this leased land here I wanted to go to. I actually don't even know what this property is right now. But if I wanted to go there, I click on the blue middle arrow button there. And then it says here, select the marker you would like to navigate to. You just click on that marker and it's going to open up Google Maps, and you're going to be able to, it's going to give you the driving directions how to get there. A cool feature about this as well is that if I actually go back to Wild Game Tracker, say I want to have Wild Game Tracker open on the way in my vehicle, once I start navigation here,
head east for 24th Street South.
And if I go back to Wild Game Tracker, it actually kind of this Google Maps can hover over top, and so you can actually have both things. You can have the navigation open and still have Wild Game Tracker open at the same time. So just knowing that that's an option as well is good to know. Beyond that, next thing over is going to be your navigation type. The Wild Game Tracker for Android actually has 4 different navigation modes. It's on nav off right now, so this would be your kind of scouting mode. Whereas I'm looking up lands that I want to go to. I have this property out here marked, okay, and whatever this Kennex ACA, I mark a lot of lease lands and stuff. I should have put I don't think these ACAs, you don't need a phone number to kind of access, but you could add that as well if you want, if it has one. But you can see I've marked this property out here. So nav off is really good for kind of scrolling around the map, taking a look at things. You can see I have all the whole Porcupine Hills area marked on the app there. So, but that's kind of your general, okay, I want to kind of look around mode is that nav off. But when I'm in the vehicle or in my boat, the next option that I like to use is GPS track and turn. So it's got GPS and then it's got arrows pointing in 2 different directions there. The reason why I like to use this in the boat is this uses actually change of location to rotate the map. So every time I move about 25 meters, it actually rotates the map. Really hard to demonstrate when I'm in my house right here, but it works really well in the boat and in your car. It gives you the kind of most natural kind of driving feel for navigation. Like I said, when you're kind of trolling in your boat or in your vehicle, it gives you really nice, smooth, easy turns. It doesn't go crazy like, say, a compass would, and I'll show you that mode kind of next. So this is, I'd say, GPS kind of track and turn, or I think I have it listed, GPS turn nav is probably your best for in your boat or your vehicle if you're using this as a scouting app. When I'm in the bush though, because it doesn't change your location until you or do a bearing until you change every 25 meters. When you're in the bush, then it's a time that you want to draw on your smartphone's compass feature. And so in order to draw on the compass feature, I just click the button again, and then you can see now I'm in compass mode. And so now as I rotate my phone, okay, It adjusts very quickly, and I have a compass navigation. Now, one thing I would caution you about, I've programmed it to be as smooth as possible, but the actual compass features on smartphones, the sensors, are not always amazing, and they sometimes need calibration. The easiest way to calibrate when you're on compass mode, if it's not coming up what you think, and even actually when you start it up, is a good idea just to do a couple of real quick figure eights with the phone. I just give it a big kind of shake around, and then the compass works just perfect. So one thing you're going to find, you're going to get some interference sometimes when you're in your truck in compass mode, or places like that. But when you're in the middle of a bush, this compass has worked always flawlessly for me. So that's one thing. Like I said, one time when I got lost, this was along with the tracking, this is what I put. If you combine this with the tracking mode, then you have a compass and you have your trail back. You also could have marked your truck at the end of that line. Lots of good survival techniques here. One thing, when you're running kind of these apps in the background like this, though, I would always have a battery pack to kind of back up your phone as well. I keep actually a solar powered battery pack in my hunting backpack, hiking backpack, just as a backup. But it is, like I said, it's got all the navigation features of probably a standalone GPS pretty much. So that's the next mode. Then we have this just GPS follow. GPS follow just points to true north. As you can see, it just points you to true north, and then it just tracks you and just keeps you centered on the screen. So it's going to come back to that, but it's not going to turn. So GPS follow is not going to turn. It's just going to go like that. And then the last one, like I said, we're just back to our scouting mode, which would be nav off. We're not navigating. We're just kind of looking around. Beyond that, the next button across is Wild Game Tracker. Also for Android has 4 different mapping options. The first one you see there, you see a little satellite and then a road marker. That's our hybrid mode. So you can see at the top as well, it says hybrid map. And so it's the hybrid one where it's going to show streets, but it's also going to show the satellite view. So hybrid is satellite and street combined. Then you have just regular old satellite, doesn't have the road markers. We have terrain view. Cool thing about all these views though too, and I don't have the best terrain. Let me get kind of by the coulee there. But when you kind of navigate with these as well, you can also put 2 fingers on the screen and rotate. And so you kind of get like a bit of a 3-dimensional kind of viewpoint. Just to kind of highlight this, I'm just gonna turn on a compass here for a second. You can see it kind of gives you a little bit of a 3D mode as you kind of go through. If you were in the mountains too, you would see with the terrain mode there, you're actually going to see elevation markers. It's really hard to see because all we have here is the coulees in Lethbridge here. But you'd see actually elevation markers as well, and you combine that with at the top. I'll talk about it in a minute, but it also shows your altitude, so you can kind of keep a track where you're at. So that's terrain mode. Then you have regular just street view, and this is, you can see street view, good for when you're on the highway or you're kind of just driving around. And then we also have go back to satellite view. So that's kind of the rundown of the buttons. We also have a zoom in and zoom out, so you don't have to always pinch and zoom. It's another handy feature when you're in the boat or you're in the truck. So you don't have to be kind of putting your eyes on the screen a whole bunch here. Going up to the top, let's just talk about the top kind of information bars that we have. So the top, right underneath where it says long press and gives you a bit of an instruction there, you have so you have kind of like your mode, which right now I'm in navigation off, hybrid map, and route tracking is turned off. Okay, so that kind of tells you your status. If delete's on, it's going to add that as well. To the top there, it always kind of, if you're just wondering what your map is currently set to, it's going to give you that information at the top. The next bar underneath that is going to be your location data. So that's going to give you both your latitude, longitude, altitude, and then a distance to a target. So let's say I want to know how far it is to this deer over here, this mule deer. I mark some city deer sometimes. Well, it tells me it's 1.65 kilometers. So it does have a rangefinder built right in. To any markers that you click on, it's going to tell you how far that is. What this is also handy for is when I get back in the bush and I want to know, well, how many kilometers I am away from the truck. Well, that's, I just click on the truck marker. Okay, I have 2 more kilometers till I get back to the truck. At least I know what that physical distance is. Like I said, it's got altitude up there as well. The next bar underneath that has got some good kind of weather and kind of time information that hunters need. It's got sunrise and sunset, so you can see today it's 5:55 a.m. is our sunrise. 8:59 p.m. is your sunset. Temperature is 3 degrees, and then it tells me the wind direction. The wind is 15 kilometers an hour from the west. One kind of thing to note here too is that it's choosing by default. It chooses these settings for metric and imperial measurements based on my region. So I'm in Canada, so it's telling me okay kilometers. If I was in the U.S., it would say it would tell me in miles an hour. Those kind of things. So understand that's going to switch for your region, but it is also changeable up here in the kind of settings here. You can change your distance to imperial or metric. You can also change your weather settings up here from either auto regional, which is on right now. So if I'm in the Canada, it does one thing, in the US it does another, but I can change that to imperial and metric. Say I was going in a hunt in the US, I may still want to be on metric because that's what makes more sense to me. Same thing with US hunters coming up to Canada here. They want to have the information that's more familiar to them. Okay, so that's a rundown. That's a basic rundown of the app. Like I said, I'm a little disappointed I couldn't use voice commands at the same time as using the mic on this recording app, but it does work well, especially when, like I said, when you're in your truck. Some of the other features are also kind of duplicated up here in the menu. If you need to know what they are, I kind of left them up there from before, due to the fact that not everyone really knew what the buttons were all the time at the bottom until you figure them out. But it is quick and easy to use once you get the hang of it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and then we'll talk to you next time.